Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to be explaining the Candito 6-week program, which is considered by many to be the best intermediate strength program out there, and I'll give my thoughts on it because I've just run one 6-week cycle of this program for the first time. So I'll just quickly cover what the Candito program entails, what's involved in this program. Basically, this is a great introduction to periodization, which is the manipulation of volume and intensity over a period of a few weeks or months or throughout the year, because you can't stay in like a peak strength state the entire time. You have to have some phases where you're doing higher volume with lower weights, and then some phases where you're doing lower volume with higher weights, and that's when you're in your peak strength. So in this program you start with higher volume, higher reps, higher number of sets, and you're using lower weights, and then you transition towards lower volume with heavier weights when you're peaking your strength at the end of the program. And finally you peak your strength in week 5, and then you either take a deload and start the next cycle with your new estimated 1 rep max based on your performance in week 5 with like very heavy weights, 97.5% of your inputted 1 rep max, or you can just test your 1 rep max in week 6 and go from there in the next cycle with this number. This is an upper-lower program, which means you have a lower day where you do squat and deadlift and some optional exercises, and then you have an upper day where you do bench press, a row, an overhead press, and a vertical pull. So on the lower body days you have your squat and then deadlift, or a deadlift variation like stiff leg deadlift, snatch grip deadlift, trap bar deadlift, that kind of thing. And then you have 2 optional exercises. You can either do lower body exercises like leg extensions and leg curls to assist your main leg work. I chose to do bicep curls and some triceps exercises like triceps push downs, because that's the part of my physique that I think is lacking the most, my arms. And then on your upper body days, you start with bench press, then you do some kind of row. I did seated machine row, but you can do like dumbbell rows or barbell rows. And then after that you do a shoulder exercise. I started with barbell overhead press, but I tend to strain my neck too hard when I do barbell overhead press, so I switched to seated dumbbell overhead press, and that worked much better for me. And then after the shoulder exercise you do a vertical pull. I chose weighted chin-ups, but you could also do lat pull downs or weighted pull-ups. And then you have another optional 2 exercises, and I chose lateral raises and bent over lateral raises for the side and the rear delts. At the start of the program, you're doing 5 days a week. You have 2 lower body days and 3 upper body days. And then you progress into 4 days a week where you have 2 lower and 2 upper. And then in the last week, you have 2 lower and just 1 upper, where you're basically testing how many reps you can get with 95% of your 1 rep max in the squat, bench, and deadlift on those 3 days. And depending on how well you do in that final week, that will determine the numbers that you start with on the next cycle. So as for my thoughts on the program, the intensity and the volume really felt perfect. I never missed a lift. This is a problem I have with a lot of other programs. I tend to, I think, put my 1 rep max too high, and then it's like too hard early on in the program. For this one, I was quite conservative with my 1 rep max inputs. I put them a bit lower than I expected I could actually do, and this resulted in me still having a really challenging program, but I wasn't overreaching like I usually do in my programs. So that was a really nice progression from the high volume, lower intensity to the lower volume, high intensity, heavy weights by the end of the program. And I never felt like it was too much for me or too easy. Like, I really looked forward to going to the gym, whereas with some other programs I've honestly like dreaded going in there because I know I'm about to do like 5 sets of 10 or something, and that just wipes me out. For this, like, the volume and the intensity, everything felt really perfect, and it's definitely important to get the correct 1 rep maxes to put as your inputs at the start of the program. There's also a nice amount of freedom to work on hypertrophy for your weak areas, so I decided my arms and my shoulders were lagging, so my optional exercises were biceps, triceps, and some side delts and rear delts. On the lower body days, you have your optional exercises, and you can do some optional lower body exercises like leg curls and extensions, but Candito says if you're training the squat and deadlift hard enough, you really don't need to do any other lower body exercises. Those 2 exercises will develop like your quads, glutes, hamstrings, even some of your calves, and that should be good enough for most of you. So I decided to just do arm exercises on my lower body optional exercises. I also did lots of extra conditioning work, so like 3 runs per week and 1 bike ride, some hiking, and every day I did a lot of walking, at least like 10,000 steps. So this meant I was doing a few double training days, especially earlier in the program when you're doing 5 days in the gym. and then I'm doing like 3 or 4 cardio sessions a week on top of that, and I quite enjoy the double training days. So I would do like gym in the morning, and then about 6 hours later I would go out for a run or a bike ride or something. And I didn't feel like the cardio affected my performance in the gym at all in a negative way. I kept the cardio low intensity, and I performed it at least 6 hours after my gym workouts to minimize the interference effect, or I performed it on separate days where possible. So cardio is not going to kill your gains unless you're doing cardio and weightlifting like basically in the same session. Ideally you do them on separate days. If not, then at least 3 hours apart, and ideally like 6 hours apart, and then your cardio and your strength are not going to interfere with each other. And doing some light cardio and getting blood into the muscles is going to actually aid with recovery and reduce your soreness in the muscles from those strength sessions. So my results for this program in week 5, I managed to get 3 reps on the squat, 3 reps on the bench press, and 2 reps on deadlift. So I'll be increasing my 1 rep max by 6% for the bench and squat and 3% for the deadlift. I probably could have squeezed out another rep on each of those, but you know, I'm not training for a competition or anything. I wasn't in a competition, and I trust that the programming will continue to increase my strength through the next couple of cycles, so I don't really need to max out. I know that the smart periodization, the smart program is going to continue to increase my strength without me needing to max out. So I'm going to be going straight into another cycle of the Candito 6-week program using the 1 rep maxes that I got at the end of the last cycle. I'm going to be changing up the optional exercises and the accessory exercises that I've been doing. So for the lower body, I'm going to be doing belt squats to improve my quads. So I have fairly weak legs compared to my back, so my squats tend to look like good mornings where my hips rise quite early and I struggle to keep my knees forwards. So doing belt squats is going to help me strengthen my quads so that they catch up with my back a little bit, and it'll make my squats a bit prettier. And I'm also doing calf raises to bring up that weak area. For the upper body accessories, I'm going to switch the seated machine row for bent over barbell row. I'm going to switch the seated dumbbell overhead press for standing dumbbell overhead press, and then I'm switching the weighted chin up for the weighted pull up to try and bring my pull up closer to the level of my chin up, because my chin up is a bit stronger than my pull up at the moment. And then for the upper body optional exercises, I think my upper chest is still lagging, so I'm gonna add in some incline dumbbell flies. I'm also gonna do some cable overhead triceps extensions for my triceps, and then cable curls and hammer curls for my biceps. So I've taken out the lateral raises and the bent over lateral raises. I only have so much volume that I can do in the week, so some things will have to be put on the back burner for now, and I'll bring them back in later on. But for now I'm focusing on like arms, my upper chest, bringing up my quads and my calves. So I definitely recommend this program if you're coming into the intermediate stage where you're really struggling to add weight or reps from workout to workout or week to week. This program is a great introduction to periodization. It's really simple and elegant, and it works most importantly. I'm someone who tends to spend a lot of time trying to find the perfect program, which can lead to me jumping between programs a lot and not really making any progress. What you want is to find a program that's very effective and just stick to it for a few months. So I highly recommend this program, and I think this is what I'm going to be using for the next few months. I'll have the program and the accompanying document linked in the description where Candito explains his reasoning behind everything he's included in the program and how to use it properly. I'll have all that linked in the description. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.